Young Catholics, Protestant Christians too, often pose the following questions. How do I translate the love I have for God to others? How do I evangelize? How do I, a convinced Christian, help others become so themselves? I'm here tonight to put forth a simple suggestion. It's not being done as good as it could be. There's an easier way, and its obviousness is a strength. I'm talking about evangelization by way of beauty. It is not in the eye of the beholder, but something more sublime still, something objective. Being factual, real, even measurable, the way a grandmother can turn a blind eye to her granddaughter, putting in 3 times the called for amount of sugar into the chocolate chip cookie dough, so too should we turn eyes open, not closed, into, not away from, beauty. And beauty is the reason the grandmother allows the extra sugar anyways. Her granddaughter is beautiful and she loves her, and there is a strong connection between love and beauty. If you are now thinking that you, from your perspective, me, the you, I too am beautiful, because made in the image and likeness of God, that's right. That's theologically and practically correct. You are all beautiful. But if you are now thinking that this is going to be part of the forthcoming talk, you are mistaken. There are plenty, URL copy and paste thousands of truckload/boatload online Catholic channels, forums, and talks where you can find so many people happy to tell you so many nice things about how special, wonderful, and incredible you are. This isn't the place. Sorry. Also, if I've got to be honest, and we should be honest, when I look out at this crowd and try to thin splice a sign of first impression grade, considering how quote unquote awesome you all appear to be, I'd say 34 out of 100, maybe like 11, I don't know. Imagine a Canadian man, 6'3", let's say 210 pounds, a descendant of some heroic and duty-bound soul who braved the rains and cottage cheese-like pits of Passchendaele, fighting during the Great War for the British Empire, for an alliance of Britain and France and Russia, and late to the party us, the Americans, against the German speakers in former Prussia and glorious Vienna, but in what was and should be remembered as the greatest tragedy of modern times. For as Pope St. Pius X of happy memory correctly identified, he dying a month into the hostilities in August of 1914. But so why is Europe, fin de siècle, beautiful architecture and avenues, even more beautiful manner and mannerisms, why are they throwing it all away? And no one has, as of yet, even now 111 years later, produced a satisfactory answer. He, our Canadian man, 6'3", 210 pounds, 4'5", 840, 700 pound squat, 375 bench press max, 225 times 22 reps when he's going for that, reps. He's from southeastern British Columbia. He's jacked, he's fast, he's from Canada. He's ripped and truly a very nice guy. He's Canadian. From somewhere between Creston and Lister, but above all, not too far from us, not even 200 miles away. He made it across the border, passed by the Palouse in no time, and seeing Boise on green signs pointing south, kept on driving. He made it to the Treasure Valley, but alas, lasted less than half a day. The pretentious attitudes of those in the capital, we're the new New York City of the Intermountain West. Alongside the way the formerly empty space between Meridian, Eagle, and Nampa had been eaten up by fast food chains, big box stores, discount cell phone shops, an $8 oil change in 8 minutes or your money back, a stinker gas station, the 40th one of those, 65 billboards per mile, some of them important like, have you checked on your dog's emotional well-being lately? Call us, Canaan on the couch. And below that, on the one and same billboard, hablamos español para que tu perro no tenga que hacerlo. Ya tiene suficientes preocupaciones. A $7 oil change in 90 seconds, or well, we tried, and pop-up communities named Sherwood Forest by the Sea. He realized this was not just not beautiful. No, it was worse than that, and for him, to him, it came down to beauty, the lack of it, and so he left. And what sea, by the way, he thought to himself, yelled aloud as he laid on the horn in thick, California-like traffic on I-84 East, stuck between a Prius affixed with the bumper stickers Blue Girl in a red state, and Trees Have Dreams Too, and to his right a large truck with 32 oversized Trump flags. He counted them all, and the total was 32. He also had a bumper sticker, but it was something like Todos amigos mucho bad, bald eagle hombres, some kind of mixed thing, and he shook his head. He didn't get it, probably because I'm Canadian, he thought. Lost in translation. He deduced. By the sea, were people in Boise so delusional they thought the blue football field of their now irrelevant team counted as an actual body of water? Ducks do, but they're stupid. Is that how Boiseans want to measure intelligence? The man had been listening to Shania Twain all the way down. Yeah, she's Canadian. but that had been when the traffic had been sparse, the skies high blue and open, the sun warm enough to roll down the window halfway. Shania Twain, weather conditions. Now he was just sitting there, not moving, hot, the windows and the AC both up, it being 114 degrees outside, the oft-repeated claims of, yeah, but it's a dry heat, more like mockery than mitigation. And so he put on a rap remix of Itsy Bitsy Spider and turned the volume up to max. Sometimes the response of non-beauty is doubling down, and here it worked. It made him feel better. They did get moving eventually. Soon after, he took a left turn prompted by the sign speaking of Horseshoe Bend and banks beyond, and left the Treasure Valley and got into the winding roads of 55 North, carving a path between deep forests on the right and the Payette River rapids down and to the left. And not long after that, he was able to lower the window and put Shania Twain back on. As the orange tint in the sky was slowly receding to something of a dark purplish hue, he resolved to stop for the night. And so here he is. Imagine him, this Canadian man sitting, whittling around a campfire in Smith's Ferry, Idaho, hamlet right turn past Cougar Mountain Lodge. One bridge over sandy-bottomed, ice-cold river water into a dirt road where you can visit Packer John Cabin, still standing site of the first Idaho Territorial Convention in the 1860s. If you have to ask, did he have time to go for a swim in the river before the sitting, the whittling, the fire crackling, some meat, some s'mores thing he's doing now? I think you already know the answer. And boy, does he feel refreshed, having washed all the Boise away. And that's a beautiful thing, cold water on the skin, and you might surmise he, this Canadian man, is beautiful himself from one anecdote alone. He once walked into a bank and said to the teller, "Excuse me, can I ask you?" She did not let him finish, but just blurted out, "Yes, I'll marry you." He was going to ask if there is an ATM outside. They got married 3 weeks later. Turns out she had been named Miss Canada twice while in college, and that's pretty cool. From Regina, Saskatchewan, but go figure, a die-hard fan of the Calgary Stampeders. Drop dead gorgeous. 10s marry 10s. For them it was 61s marry 61s. They honeymooned north of Calgary. When you are imagining this Canadian man, this is now the third time I've asked you to do that. I don't want you to think about beauty, but rather the absence of it. Things, more precisely definitions that are not beauty. These non-beautiful, not beauty things, imagine them as flecks of wood he's whittling off, one by one into the fire in front of him. Beauty is not, people will just see the joy in my heart and ask me why I'm so happy, and the rest will take care of itself. Maybe. You've heard this one before. I have a few times. If you haven't, please don't feel bad. Most likely you know a lot less things than I do. Anyone here know the best way to walk a pet armadillo? I don't think so. I hear this a lot from Protestants, and it's well-meaning and makes sense on the surface. If you're filled with God's love, that will radiate off you naturally and attract other people. Now, I'll concede here, if this was actually the case, the literal definition no more, that would be something we could call beauty. However, the well-intentioned but fallen and frail beings that we are means this approach often comes off as annoying or fake. Also, armadillos are biological reservoirs for mad amounts of disease, copious carriers, prodigious incubation agents like a lot. I don't know about you, but if I walked into a run-of-the-mill Wednesday night Protestant-style small group/Bible study, and everyone's wearing ear-to-ear high-voltage smiles and constructing sentences with heavy word choices of happy, joy, thrilled, amazing, I might leave before the good stuff gets underway. I'm saying probably don't ever touch an armadillo unless you are one, and if that's the case, it's probably okay. But you won't be able to understand this reassuring message due to your lack of language skills in the hear, process, store, capability interface owing to your essential armadillo nature, i.e. general armadillo-ness. Beauty is not just being nice. Beauty is not making others feel special by saying special things that make them feel special. Beauty is not necessarily classical art or architecture as much as it is not necessarily the latest fad, the newest thing, the cutting edge, whatever, soon to become passé, done in by its own over-reliance on the time-sensitive now. Beauty is not simply physical beauty, whether on photographic representation or in the flesh. Someone who's considered by the world to be, quote, not attractive physically might, by the operating effects of God's grace in their soul, and the good works and humility and charity and holiness flowing therefrom, have rendered their soul exceedingly brilliant, supernaturally beautiful. So the definition here certainly cannot be reduced simply to the physical. Beauty is not lust. We've whittled enough for one night, and that guy's got to get back to Canada first thing. Now, what beauty is, though? What beauty is a transcendental. Transcendentals are properties of being, both foundational, wellspring sources for, and connected to all in existence, therefore of our realm, while simultaneously gateways to the higher heavenly essential metaphysical realm. Transcendentals are properties of being, both foundational wellspring sources for and connected to all in existence, our realm here, while simultaneously gateways to the higher heavenly essential metaphysical realm. You often hear the transcendentals thrice grouped: the good, the true, the beautiful. And the essential word here for all three is the most common, the. Not simply some good or a true thing may be true for you, a type of beauty. No, rather the very form of the good, the true, the beautiful. These being infinite in their conception and reach, they ultimately spring from the one non-contingent being, the unmoved mover, who is the way, the truth, and life, and in whom rest all perfections, perfectly attuned for all time. This being that all men call God beholds the very essential form of beauty by its very nature. That's why we, as we go out into the world, really need to be tapping into this evangelically, evangelizing towards the beautiful God by way of the transcendental beauty which is His, fully and totally. Transcendentals, being transcendental, literally transcending in their activity, means they are universal and accessible to all people, everyone, no matter their culture, their native language. All people can just get it immediately, because that's what transcendentals do and what they are. And the ultimate beauty of God leads to appreciation and pleasure in the lesser beauties connected to God. What makes you want to listen to this one song more? A, that it's stunningly beautiful, or B, it doesn't exactly sound good, but will give you a nice window into 1980s suburban angst. Maybe you like angst more than beauty. You probably drink black coffee even though you hate it for the sophistication you assume this gives you. Black coffee plain is rarely good. But the more we talk about beauty simply vis-a-vis its own beauty because it's beautiful, the better you'll evangelize, because the closer you'll bring people to the God who is beauty personified. Good black coffee is all about the person making it, and most people make it to a quality you'd expect at a pilot rest stop on I-40 West, headed out from Oklahoma City, destination Kingman, Arizona, or even headed the other direction on I-40 East towards Memphis or Little Rock. That's not good, the coffee and those places. But with beauty, keep it simple. Keep it basking from within, beheld from without. I'm also saying, don't you think black coffee is improved with a few subtle dollops of well-filmed whole milk and honey poured from a plastic bear's head, if you can't get a farmer to deliver it straight from the source? Beauty for its own sake, because it's beautiful, springing from a transcendental base pointing to God, this being good evangelization. A few examples. The movie you make doesn't have to be like Protestant cinema, where some guy beats up a computer with a baseball bat. A review in a secular newspaper rightfully called it, quote, as subtle as a bulldozer. Christ calls us to be sly like serpents. So when you make your movie, make it subtle, make it simply beautiful. A story that is true, characters that are authentic, and the ever old, ever new human tragicomedy of falling away then returning to the good, to God by God's grace. Make your movie beautiful, and people will know it's ultimately about reality, about God's reality, the only one. The book you write, like the movie you might make, same rules: beauty first, beauty last, evangelization flowing naturally and unimpeded therefrom. People think writing a Christian story, quote unquote, has to be copy and pasting Bible verses, but we've got so much material at our fingertips: sin, repentance, despair in the face of our failures, but then the joy of being healed in Christ, triumph, all in every facet of the complexity of the human person, the sacred, the profane, the fallen, the redeemed, all under the umbrella of the essential messiness of the real. There's a reason that Flannery O'Connor is considered by some to be the best Catholic writer of recent memory, even though Walker Percy is definitely better, and David Foster Wallace too. She wrote about the real, however painful it was, and so her work was both beautiful and good. Also, tons of Catholics nowadays will cite Miss O'Connor as their favorite author, or worse still, like, well, nurse, you can mark it on the official records, Death by Cringe, wear t-shirts with her face or quotes from her books without ever having read even a single page from her literary corpus. This is absolutely unacceptable. Don't wear a t-shirt with Flannery O'Connor's face until you've read something she wrote. But I bet when you read anything she wrote, you'll realize you should never wear such a shirt. It's unacceptable. Beauty for beauty's sake, because it's beautiful, pointing to the beautiful God. When you dress yourself, dress beautifully, certainly under the modest instructions of Scripture, fine, but in keeping with you being that image and likeness of God, respectfully reflecting that. I think St. Thomas More said it best, if it was indeed him who said it. I might be misremembering here, but, one of these grand saints, and again, I think him once said, quote, "I wear the hair shirt for myself, but the gold for the people." Interiorly, in the inner room of prayer, visible to God alone, he was doing penance with the hair shirt. But in the handsome garments of his outer appearance, he was proclaiming by beauty, by sight, that the interior comeliness God was cultivating in him was matched by a visible and appreciable congruence. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying here. $1,000 plus custom suit with matching shoes and an expensive watch can look cheaper than the brown habit of a Franciscan, if well cleaned, neatly pressed, perfectly befitting the symbol of living renunciation. But beauty and fashion can be a gift from God, even if the fashion industry is probably placed in some circle of hell by Dante, because someone with a fashion sense can make some great looks out of a few $20 bills at the thrift store, whereas those without it will remain without it even with millions of dollars at their disposal. So it's not about money. It's not about bling or ostentatiousness. We are always supposed to be humble, period. Rather, it's about respect, especially towards God. He made you in his own image. Please try looking the part. For if you ever find yourself looking in the mirror, having given no thought to your appearance, and maybe worse still, tried to look bad on purpose, out of some false modesty, just think about this. If you asked a waitress in France to bring you the best wine they have, then write down her number on the napkin next to it, would it work? You, an accountant from Iowa who knows the tax code back and front. You, who used to wear pocket protectors and thin, thick-rimmed glasses, but now you run 3 times a week, got LASIK 5 years ago in Des Moines, visit the dentist annually, have learned how to relax, how to think positive thoughts, how to be nice to yourself. You even call your aunt in Chicago not infrequently. Do you stand a chance with this type of pickup line? What are the odds she'll go for a coffee with you next door, a black coffee? If you're going to play a musical instrument, do it beautifully. No one cares about your technique or sight reading skills. Bring forth beauty or get out of here. If you're going to write a country song, write a lyric like Kenny Chesney did in Back Where I Come From. Quote, "We learned in the Sunday school who made the sun shine through. I know who made the moon shine too, back where I come from." Why do you bother with basketball if you're not training each and every workout to dunk? Dunk or die trying. Make your penmanship as calligraphous as it can be. When you clean your house, your apartment, your frat, clean it so it looks beautiful. I don't just mean clean. I think you know way beyond that, into the realm of this transcendental beauty. Speak beautifully to others. Pray beautifully. And this one is so easy because the prayers themselves are so beautiful in and of themselves. It's like that packet says, just add water, start praying, you'll see the beauty start bubbling up and frothing all about you, done in a couple minutes. Speaking of prayer, let us all leave here tonight committing to praying for one another forever. I'm serious. Add something to your daily intentions like, for everyone who was at that Hippo talk at St. Augustine's that night, Lord, please bless them. It's great. And all of this is like a sermon I recently heard at 7:15 a.m. at a 7:15 a.m. communion service at Sacred Heart Church in Pullman. This is on a warm August morning. The last gasps of summer, whose pre-5 a.m. sunrise will soon surrender to Palouse winters, chock full of snow, ice from October through April. The deacon talked about a woman who confessed to being, quote, "stuck in a rut with my faith. At least spiritually dry, if not like Mother Teresa's years of darkness, feeling far from God. Prayer a chore, we've all been there." And then she started taking photographs of the sky around her home at dawn, at dusk. Probably a few of those pitch black skies that would be like a black hole if not for the shimmering stars speckled about. I looked at them, she told the deacon, and I was struck by their beauty, by the beauty of God's creation. And getting lost in this beauty, I eventually made my way back to God, the source of this beauty. Okay, so before I conclude, let me give you the takeaways that some of you have come for. Some people like that, and in bullet point form. So, 1, God is beautiful. So being beautiful, acting beautifully, however imperfect our beauty and beautiful acts are, can be a form of honoring God, of growing more like Him, just as we do the same by our penances, prayer life, humility, and love. 2, beauty is a transcendental, along with the good and true, therefore its form and implementation is practically endless. And therefore, like our Catholic faith, it is universal, a universal language, understood and appreciated by people the world over. Therefore, use this 1 and 2 connection to God and the flexibility of beauty, along with 3, its universality. 2, as we started this essay, evangelize, bring people to God, faith, the truth. And that's why, finally, as this essay has shown, beauty can be so fun, so diverse, so many things, because it being transcendently universal and related to God, it cannot fail to accomplish number 4, this final takeaway point. It will evangelize. Whatever you do, if you do it beautifully, whatever it is, it will, by its own accord, because God designed it that way, draw people closer to God, the source, the summit of all beauty.